Hi everyone, and welcome to the Phileas Club. This is episode 90 for June 2017, and it's called Armchair Psychologizing. Excellent title. Hello everyone, and welcome back to the Phileas Club. My name is Patrick Beja, and today we're having a regular episode, which means we're getting people from different countries, different places in the world, and we talk about the things that have been happening in the past month or so, and hopefully we give everyone a slightly different angles, views on the news topics. That's what we endeavor to do anyway. Just a quick word before we start. There's a bunch of stuff that happened in Saudi Arabia, and I was really looking forward to hearing Turkey's opinions on things, but unfortunately he didn't feel well and couldn't come on the show. So sadly we won't. I know a lot of people were probably expecting to hear from him, but yeah, sorry, he's not here. And we will forever have a dark curtain and box over what happened there in Saudi Arabia. But we still have a wonderful panel to talk about the things that are happening in the world. First, Wendy Dunford is here from Sweden. How's it going, Wendy?
Hi, good.
You
Hello,
are
everybody.
So you're representing Sweden and a little bit of America, right?
Yeah.
How long have you been in Sweden now? You're
3
almost
years.
not American anymore.
I know. I forgot almost everything. No, I 3 years. Yeah.
So when do they take
That's
your passport back?
They are so generous. They'll just give me a Swedish passport if I would stay here 5 years. So
That's
it's
very
not the
nice.
other way around. They're not America.
Wait, are you actually considering it, or?
I don't know. We'll have to see. So you have to live here 5 years as sort of a registered resident, and then you have the option to get citizenship, which is pretty amazing.
So
Yeah.
you heard it here first. Wendy Dunford quitting her American origins and roots and betraying her country. That's what
don't
you
tell
get
my family,
when you
okay?
have
Okay.
when you have bleeding heart liberals, and that's you see the true colors. There you go. All right, thanks for being on the show, Wendy. Thankfully, we have a real red-blooded American on the show to balance out Wendy's traitorship. And that's Owen, who's back on the show after a wonderful episode after the election of Donald Trump a few months ago. How's it going, sir?
I think my blood's green. I don't think it really, I don't plan on having my blood being shown to the world, so the oxygen's not going to hit it. So the red-blooded Americanizing of your statement is incorrect, but I'm still happy to be here while we figure out what color my blood truly is.
That's the important thing that we want to know about. But yeah, no, thank you very much for being on, Owen. I'm very glad to be able to ask you a few questions about what's happening in your country. And I'm sure the answers will be very interesting. I'm hoping so anyway.
My answers are always wrong, but they're definitely mine. I cannot act as a speaking voice for everybody, but they should think like me if they were smart.
Yeah,
safe.
I tend to agree. I usually, when I go about my day, when I'm faced with a question, I try to think, what would Owen do? And usually the answer that I get is the right one. So thank you for providing us with that on the show as well. And finally, Marlene is back from the Netherlands with the burning question. Not only how's the heat wave going, but also, do you finally have a government? And we'll have an answer to that, I'm sure.
Yeah, I'll have some answer to the question at least.
Yeah, we'll have answers to all of these. And I'm going to be able to talk about the heat wave and the government question for France as well. And there's some shenanigans happening in Finland too. Like, it seems like every political environment is being, I don't know, there's weird things happening everywhere. But I guess the first thing we have to kind of talk about, it's the heat wave that's completely devastating Europe. And some people are saying, it's global warming. Some people are saying, no, that's normal variations. That's not how you look at this. But yeah, I just wanted to mention it because it's basically what anyone can talk about on Twitter and anywhere else if you're in Central Europe. Thankfully, I stayed true to my French roots, unlike others, and I cut and run and fled to Finland, where it's raining and depressingly cold. So I'm not suffering from that heat wave. But you were saying, Marlene, that you had to get baths of ice basically to stay alive.
No. I'm really lucky. I have a really old house, but it's a couple of floors. So the lower floor is super cool, which is awesome. And then we sleep in like the top floor. And it gets really hot there. No, I mean, if those are the biggest complaints, let's be honest, we're really lucky.
Right. We're going to get to other questions in a little bit, which are going to be more controversial. But we don't have I was going to say hair conditioning. We have hair conditioning. We don't have air conditioning, which I'm sure the Americans would be really outraged about. If they were here.
What?
Yeah, we don't.
Exactly.
We don't. We have old houses, man.
Yeah.
Okay. So you don't have window units or any what?
No, we don't.
I've never seen a window unit that actually made me want to look at my own house. So nope.
Wow. It will probably cost you about $800 to get one sent to you freight. But for the love of Jiminy Christmas, if it's that hot, a window unit would save your life. Like you don't have air conditioning? I'd quit that country ASAP. I'm upset. As a black man and as an overweight person, I feel sad for you in my heart. I'm about to send you air conditioner right now.
I'm sorry. I should have told you one more thing about the Dutch. We love to complain. So we should have, it's all either too hot or it's too cold. That's how we do it.
Yeah, but when it's too cold, we have
dying
heating,
from heat stroke. Like,
that's actually a big question because we have a lot of elderly people, as most countries do. And last time, it was 10 years ago, we had such a big heat wave, and in France, it was a huge problem. Like a lot of elderly actually died because they weren't being cared for appropriately. Now, hopefully, we took the steps to remedy that. But air conditioning or hair conditioning could help in those cases. So
we have our national heat plan is currently active, which basically boils down to, quite literally, please take care of the people who are not super fit. That's what it means.
Okay.
Keep an eye out.
I know it's like stuff, but let me just tell you something. This is how important air conditioning is. I could teach you in 5 minutes how to make a portable from home air conditioning. You get a styrofoam cooler, you punch 2 holes in it, you fill it with ice, and then you put a fan on the top of it, and it draws the evaporating air out. It'll cool a bedroom down to like 65 degrees in 20 minutes. Like, what is going on that you guys don't have air? I'm sorry.
Well, Owen, there's a major problem. There's no styrofoam here, and there's no ice.
Also, there's no space. Do you have any idea how small old houses are in Europe? There's no space, honey.
It takes up the size of a small suitcase. A small suitcase can cool your room for the night. You can breathe. I'm really upset about this. I don't know why we're talking about this. We need to talk about something else. This is ridiculous.
I sense that Owen is getting a little bit emotional about all of this.
So sad.
I think we're going to move on to another somewhat, less important story. But at the same time, I'm very curious to hear how upset that will make Owen and possibly everyone. Last time we spoke on the show, President Trump had just been elected. And if I remember correctly, you were firmly in the camp of, I don't care for either of the candidates. I think they're both as bad as, each other. And basically, I don't really mind that Trump was elected because I think Clinton would have been just as bad. Is that a okay characterization of your mindset at the time?
Exactamundo. It's like Godzilla and Mothra fighting in the city. Who cares? They're both going to destroy the city.
All right. So then my question now is, one that I've been waiting a long time to ask, months. After everything we've seen, after everything, it's a trivial example, but Trump going to play golf like on the taxpayer's dime for weekends on end after criticizing basically everything he does. You can find the tweet from the past 5 years where he vehemently criticizes everything, and not to mention, the healthcare bill that is being discussed in secret when they were criticizing this, when the Democrats were doing it like much more openly, and the Russian ties that we've seen and the nepotism that is rampant, although, some people might claim that he's just getting people to run his administration like he would in his family business, quote unquote. All right. A lot of things have been happening. Without going over all of it, are you still in the same mindset? Do you still think things would have been just as bad with a Clinton presidency?
I think you did go over it. I think you covered everything. And surprisingly enough for you, I will say I am very pleased with this administration. I am very pleased with Donald Trump, the United States of America. I still think that it still would have been the same if Hillary would have been the president, except for one caveat. One caveat is she would have been more sneaky and savvy and not let you notice she was trying to destroy the world and take over everything and fill her pockets and make her family an oligarchy, as opposed to the doofus that just does it openly and plainly and doesn't care. Let me just tell you something real quick about how great America is and how great our president is right now. So for a long time, people are okay with the status quo of government and how things work. And they think, oh, well, shucks, I know some people are oppressed. I know some places don't get funded. I know inner cities don't get this and equal justice. Well, when you have it so blatant and across the board where it affects every race and nationality and sex, it makes everybody get off their butt and stop saying, oh, well, it's okay, because now it's not okay for anybody. So now the country is, quote unquote, woken up, except for the people that slumber in the hills and mountains in Doofusville in the South. Everyone else is woken up. They're going out to things politically, and they're arguing about stuff. The town halls are getting shut down because Republicans are scared. I mean, it is a great day in America. I am so proud of 45 for uniting so many people together and getting them off their butt and angering them and showing them that, hey, yes, schools are important. So he's undercutting schools. Well, now you actually know what the school budget is. Now you actually pay attention to what the school budget is. You didn't know what it was for the last 10, 8, 12 years. But now you know, and you're thinking, oh, my goodness, he's going to cut that in half? We didn't have nothing to begin with. So I am personally actually happy about the job that 45 has done to stir up the nation and show everybody what's going on in politics. Because normally they hide behind a curtain and everybody thinks it's hunky-dory, and it's not. But he's so stupid, he does it in plain sight. So I'm grateful.
So basically, okay, so you would have been afraid that if Clinton had passed, it would have been business as usual, but now we're seeing all the mess. And so do you feel that people are actually getting more active politically because some of the blunders that both of the parties would do are more visible with 45? I feel like calling him 45 has a sense of like he who should not be named. But
I'll break it down really simply for you. I have two friends. One that's 37. He has 3 children. He smokes weed every day. He does construction, smokes weed every day. I've known him since high school. I've never once heard him say a word about any president, any election, any vote, any budget, any bill. He's tagging me and stuff, calling me about stuff every other week. Did you know that blah, blah, blah? Ever since Trump was elected, now all of a sudden he's informed. His kids are 10, 8, and 3. He hasn't given a crap about education, bills, budgets, nothing. Guess what? Now his pothead self knows about everything. I have another friend, exact same way. Dude's out here drinking. All he does is go to the bar and chase women. He's out here talking about, did you hear about the war budget, the school budget? I'm like, why are you talking about budgets? You should be talking about Hennessy. So that's how I know that this administration has woken up people that have been asleep for decades. People with children that never gave a hoot and or Annie, and now they're paying attention. So, yeah.
Okay, America. America. We were joking before we started recording that basically the answer to everything is America, and it works. I think it works.
No air conditioning, America.
So before I go to Wendy, because I want to hear her thoughts about this as well, but what do you hope will happen, in the midterm elections and maybe in the next election, because the, awakening to, and let's put aside, some of the diehard supporters of the current administration. I say diehard because I think every poll shows that the support of President Trump is lower than any presidency has ever seen, or very close to the lowest we've ever seen. So I think it's fair to say they're not seeing a lot of confidence from the people. But let's put that aside, which could be a whole entire conversation by itself. Let's put that aside for a second. What is your hope for what will happen in the next elections? Because if the Democrats are just as bad, or maybe it was just Clinton, what's the way out?
So without Clinton, it's going to be easier for the Democrats to get the House and the Congress back. And that's the first step. Hopefully, that all switches and we get power back there. And then we can go forward. If that doesn't happen, then everything I just said is moot, because even though people are paying more attention, that means they're not going out to vote. Because right now, with his, see what I'm saying? His approval rating is so low that even people who didn't care about politics don't like this guy now. People who never would ever paid attention to it are like, yo, this isn't right. So right now we need to get the lower branches of government swaying back to Democratic side. I'm an independent. I really don't like any of them. Like, even the people you end up liking are just scumbags and doing horrible deals. Like, Cory Booker is like some savior of grace, and then he goes and says, oh, no cheap medication from Canada. We can't do that. We don't know if Canada's medicine is regulated. And we're like, they all come from the same factories and get shipped all over the world. What are you talking about? But again, he took a lot of money from pharmaceutical companies and blah, 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 blah. So, I mean, it's rough to say who's going to do what, but we need Democrats because they're a little bit better than these Looney Tune Republicans right now, for the most part.
Okay. Wendy, what do you think about all of this, and maybe your feelings on after 6 months of the Trump presidency?
Well, I totally agree with Owen.
Really?
I think.
So, are you actually thinking this is maybe the hard but necessary wake up call to the nation?
Well, I do think that Clinton would not have been able to do. First of all, to be honest, I think her gender would have created lots of fun things for a long time. I think similarly to Obama, I think the vitriol towards him was not as simple as he talked like a professor, right? I mean, it was a different. It had an impact that I think was part of the boiling up to this moment. I think the same thing would have happened with Clinton. I think it would have kept going, and then I think we would have had a Trump after her, some version of that. So it feels like it was going to happen inevitably. And Trump is a symptom, not necessarily the thing that started any of this. So I agree with him that either side is not trustworthy. Both sides are compromised continually. I think, let's talk about campaign finance reform. We should have done that 100 years ago. So there's no way to pull all this apart and have it be the system. I think that it could be, that would be amazing. Unfortunately. However, I have to say, it's really nice to live outside of America at the moment. And there's a reason. As I read a lot, I pay attention to what's happening. I have done this thing. I'm center, little to the left, but I have read Fox News every single day, in addition to many other sources, and I am astounded. It's like watching Family Feud. It's he said, she said, over and over, and name calling, and everybody's doing it. I mean, it just feels like it's a bunch of preschoolers fighting on a playground when you step back from it. And obviously it has real life consequences, and on some level it's terrifying, but yet it is really interesting. Now, is the system corrupt in and of itself? Is anyone who gets to be a president got to be pretty corrupt to be there in the first place? Yeah, probably. I mean, all of that is a thing. Sorry, someone's phone is shooting off in the background. I know,
we're
right?
Doing the show.
Come on, this is world peace we're talking about. So anyway, yeah. But it really has been, and so I'm a psychologist. I don't know if you've ever announced that, but it is really fun to armchair psychologize. That's a word, right?
Yes, absolutely. Well, if it's not, we'll make it one.
It is. It's a word. Trump from afar. It's interesting. I have more empathy for the guy than you would suspect. I think maybe because it's so public, this kind of not knowing what he's doing. And the game that is politics, the man does not know how to do. And I feel like he's kind of the crazy uncle at Thanksgiving dinner that's just going to get on Twitter and ruin everything, get a little drunk and say everything wrong.
The way we look at it, I think it would be funny or sad or both if he wasn't the president. That's, I think, yeah.
Right.
Okay.
Again, just sorry to interrupt, but one, I like that someone who's a doctor is agreeing with me, a fake doctor. Secondly, the biggest thing is the empathy thing. I don't feel sorry for a grown man that is basically a con artist. You every time you think he's a buffoon, think of the way that this man has failed up in his life. His things that he says are just distractions for dumb people to jump on board and go along with because they're dumb. And that's how he's failed. His book should have been called The Art of the Con. He is a con artist. He is a professional con artist. So even when you think he's making a mistake, really, he's helping himself out, because even those blunders, all they do is muddy the waters. He says, they had my phones tapped. Instead of investigating what actually was going on, people are reporting on his tweet and questioning old FBI directors about a tweet. The man is a genius. Like, don't ever feel any empathy for this man. Don't ever feel bad for this man. This man is a con artist who failed his way through life with his daddy's money and now is 45 in America this day and age. I don't feel bad for him. I mean, I wish I could be like him. Somebody give me $1 million and let me start conning people. I tell you what, y'all
I completely agree with you, but it's an interesting way. I didn't do this on purpose, but it's this thing I've done to manage the feeling that we have put into office someone who is unbelievably untrustworthy and dangerous. So it's my psychological,
Nixon.
It's my response of like, and everyone who knows him and is connected to him, and when he undercuts everyone left and right, he claims something, he tweets the wrong thing. I mean, Sean Spicer, bless his little heart. So it's just my mom response, I think, more than anything. But I agree with you. It's so overwhelming to really think about. So I shut down and try to feel bad, I guess.
I think, that's the big question ultimately. And I think we'll never have the answer. Is he really just a lucky and useful idiot? As we historically, the term is important and contextualized here. It makes sense. So is he a lucky idiot and a useful idiot, or is he a genius? And it really can't be anything in the middle. It has to be one of the extremes, and I don't think we'll ever know. Both are honestly almost equally likely, but I don't know. We'll never know.
You can answer the question yourself. It's really easy. He call him an idiot savant. He's a smart person in what he does. He knows marketing. He knows branding. He knows himself. He knows name. He knows value. He knows recognition. He tried to be a businessman on his own. He failed. So then he leveraged his name and his name popularity to continue doing business and have other people take on the brunt of the losses of his deals. So the guy is smart. The guy's a con man. He knows how to walk into a room.
I don't know.
And listen to what he wants. He gets on a stupid little TV show and he says stupid little things and people listen to him. He goes out and he says the birth certificate. You repeat things and he's smart. He's smart at what he's smart at. Does he know how to budget a balance of a book? No. Does he know how to read? Probably not. But he's smart, and he knows how to perpetuate image of himself of power and control, and it has helped him throughout his life. Yeah. So that's the genius.
All right, also, Marlene, anything? Go ahead.
Yeah, I'm sorry. Yeah, I was actually, in the end, as an outsider, I'm actually really not that interested if this is all intentional, or if it's just like a mess that, he happens to stumble into. In the end, the acts that he takes, the things he says, the damage that he does, the danger that he poses in my view to minorities, but also to a feeling of we're in this together. In the end, I don't care where it comes from. That the effects are real, and even no matter if he sits his full term, even if he gets reelected, whatever, if we've seen anything in Holland with politics becoming more, going more to the right and going more extreme, in the end, if the person goes away, the conversation is still shifted, and that stays, and that's really dangerous. So I'm not so sure if the cause is that important, if the effects are real anyway.
Well, isn't it if we can all see him as a clown, it reduces some of that? Because I agree with you completely that is the real danger. And to be an American outside of America and have to answer over and over and over again for what have my people done, you get really good at saying, he's insane, he's uprooting the system. And, there's people who, politics usual, they'd like to see it differently. I'm trying to justify how we could have gotten to this place. And yet I recognize one of the great American exports is culture, is information, is every Swedish kid can speak perfect American accented English from YouTube and playing Minecraft. So that, you're absolutely right. That impact is real. But there's a part of me that wants us all to just see him as a clown, because aren't we used to dictators being a guy who, a narcissist who can't get enough power, and we can see them as the core, not all 325 million Americans. But when I talk to Swedes, they're pretty sure half of America has lost its mind. So
Brexit? Anybody? Brexit?
Yeah. Here's the thing about Brexit. The young people voted the next time around. Like, that's the thing that at least England is attempting to pull off, is it woke them up a little. I don't know.
And that's what I was saying about America.
That's what Owen was saying. Yeah.
But Wendy, I have a feeling. I understand. I understand what you're saying, but I'm afraid that the idea of us saying, or you're feeling like I'm sorry if I'm crossing a line, so please correct me if I'm wrong. But the feeling as a white woman to say, can't you please understand that he does not represent all Americans? It's a really, really big luxury to feel that only now. Because there are so many minorities who are constantly addressed by actions of individuals. And they are being called out as groups all the time. And I understand, and it's really difficult because it's still unfair. It's incredibly unfair. I wholeheartedly agree. But I think that that for us, it's a really big luxury to be only now confronted by that notion that it's so unfair that we're...
Oh, absolutely. Which I think, and I agree with you completely, it comes from a place of total privilege. I have a good friend here who's a refugee from Syria who told me from the minute Trump entered that race that he would win. And I kept saying, no way. We talked about it over and over and over. And when he won, he said, yeah, sorry, but I knew it. And I said, how do you know it? He's like, because people secretly hold certain beliefs and feelings. And that's the thing that is, if white people are going to wake up or any dominant group wakes up, sometimes they have to be threatened, maybe for the first time. So you can ask somebody who's, lived in America a long time and said, well, this doesn't surprise me at all. But for the sort of liberal, tree-hugging white side of things, they're like, oh, how is the world not PC? Because it's supposed to be. So that's certainly
how I felt as well. But I feel, we do have a black man on the panel, so maybe we could ask him as well how he feels. And
that's what I meant when you're not crossing the line when you were saying that you're a woman and so here's the thing. Being black, especially in America, is a very convoluted, crappy situation. So do I care about how bad education is? No. Do I care about, honestly, people in Syria and other countries dying? No. Do I think that this president is going to be so bad for the world? No. Because I lived through Bush. I traveled around the world and people ask me the same questions. How could you go with that idiot? He's just ruining everything.
You don't think it's worse, though?
Listen. Just think about it from a standpoint of we started false wars that have killed millions of people, that have tumbled into other wars, and a quote unquote good president extending and expanding those wars. And then we don't want to take care of those people because we're just going there blowing up places. So is it worse? I don't know. President number 45 hasn't started a new war yet. Killing a whole bunch of people isn't on his docket just yet. I mean, we have Syria going on, but I mean, on his docket, he hasn't started a new war yet. So when we give this record of, oh, he's just the worst thing for everything. Well, we had some pretty cool guys out here killing and dropping bombs day after day after day. For what reason? Expansion, oil, money, corruption. It goes on and on. So like I said, the fact that there's a moron in the House who can't hide his agenda helps people that are commonplace understand the corruption. Because when you sit there and you say, oh, well, we got to go save Timothy in this far off land, but then you don't care about all the kids getting killed and slaughtered in Africa. Well, why not? Because we're not drilling oil in Africa? Like, I don't understand what's going on. So there's a whole bunch of stuff that goes into that. But this president is not the beginning and the end all of minorities for women or anybody being mistreated. I didn't get no Obama Prize in the mail. Dude was in there for 8 years. Chicago had the murders rate above any murders per capita. His city couldn't stop people from killing. Oh, the highest murder rate for the last 4 years of his presidency of the whole country was in his city. You know what you do, Mr. President? You go take your freaking army of people that watch you, go drive through Chicago for 3 days and shut the whole city down and save some lives. That's what you do. But you know what? We sit there. He doesn't talk about it. He doesn't do anything about it. So I feel it's like the same. As a minority, I feel like no matter who the president is, he doesn't run anything. He's a puppet.
So basically what you're saying is this, we as white people look at this, and me as a white man, especially maybe, we look at this and we're like, oh my God, this is so horrible. But it's only because we're seeing it now when the minorities, you know, in the case of the other two panelists, the women, and in your case, Owen, the black people or the colored people in more widely, were like, well, yeah, it's been like that for forever. So welcome to the party, basically.
I'm going to say one more thing, and I'll be quiet later, but I'll talk for a second. It's the general example I give people is watch any zombie apocalypse movie.
Okay.
All these white people survive. And I'm sorry, this is going to sound crazy, but white people aren't going to make it. If there's an apocalypse,
I think you're damn right.
White people are generally the weaker of the genetics, just by genetics. Black people are bigger, stronger, faster. But you know who's really going to make it? Latinos, Spanish people, Mexicans, they're going to make it. They're the ones out here working in 800-degree weather, laughing at me about air conditioning. They're the ones that are going to survive on nothing to eat because they snuck over here in a barrel for 3 weeks with some coyote. Like, white people just aren't going to make it. Their sensitivity is too high. They're too soft and they're too privileged. So if something crazy goes down, white people can't make it. Spanish people, black people, people being deported.
I don't know,
Obama
man. You were the
more
one
people in history.
You were the one complaining about air conditioning. We are enduring the heat wave here in Europe. Okay,
that is true.
It's not 100% science. I'm just saying in general, 90% of the white people ain't gonna make it like on these movies and shows. It might be 80% Latino and like 10% black, like 5% white. What I'm saying. My stat butt's not. I'm not running nowhere.
I have to admit that I personally, even though I can probably endure the heat wave, I would collapse after running like 15 meters, and the zombies would eat me first. So,
in fact, actually, I think our prayers have been heard. It started. There's thunder going outside now, so we're cooling off just a little.
Excellent, fantastic. The prayers of the Phileas Club have been heard. All right, so thank you guys for this panorama picture. Honestly, it's not exactly what I was expecting the reaction to be, but it's a very interesting take on the first 6 months. I want to talk about the French election for a little bit because it is now basically over. We've had the parliamentary election and a few days ago, and if you guys remember. So I'm going to summarize. I'm not going to go over all the details, but really one way to look at what happened in the French elections with this new guy who came out of nowhere and because of corruption scandals and the number of other factors managed to become president and now has had a majority in the parliament, again, with his party that didn't exist like 6 months ago for all intents and purposes. That is cataclysmic for the French political landscape. We were expecting him to have to form an alliance with other parties in order to be able to govern, but surprisingly, he got a majority. Not as large as some people had predicted initially, but still a absolute majority in the parliament, which was very surprising. And one thing that's really interesting, I think, in the way to look at it is, I think that guy is our Donald Trump in a way, meaning, he's maybe the good side of Donald Trump, the flip side of the coin, because he's really a guy that came out of nowhere, and that was the catalyst for people who were tired of the old system and of the old habits, some of them morally ambiguous, and we managed to sort of focus our energy and anger on him to get him in power, instead of having the old guard still being here. And in the parliament, the old parties are basically almost non-existent. I guess we have 577 seats, I think. The Republicans have a little over 100. And after that, you have the Socialist Party that has like 30 or 40. And after that, it's in the teens. So, and the En Marche, the Onwards, has 320, which is the majority is at 280 or something like that. So it's like they dominate now. And there are two elements to this. One, he was saying we need to end the polarization of our political discourse. You can't keep criticizing an idea if it's come from the other side, like not just criticize it, but admonish it just because it comes from the other side. That was a very strong message that he was conveying. And the other one was, we need to end it's not even really about corruption. It's more about abusing the system for political figures. And a lot of people were saying, you need to have a clean break and you need to have everything clean now. And my thinking was, you have to, it's idealistic. You need to do this in steps. And there were 3 ministers from his government that were kind of not even indicted, but there was not a study, investigation open on them, and we didn't know if they were even guilty. Like, there are obviously steps, you open an investigation and then you indict someone and then there's a judgment, and once the judgment has been set, you know if they're guilty or not. So we are a few steps removed, and the rule was for the government that if you're indicted, you can't stay in power. And that was kind of a strict rule they had established. But the 3 ministers out of 30, I think, that were involved in issues, and the issues, just so you understand, are having parliamentary aides being paid by the parliament to work on their party's affairs. So it's not as bad as what happened with the Republican candidate in the elections, in the presidential election, where he was having someone, his wife namely, and others, paid by the parliament or other functions to do nothing. So it was fake jobs. In this case, it's misappropriation of funds, which is obviously bad as well, but it's still in the investigation process. And 3 of his ministers that were involved in those investigations have been changed after the parliamentary elections, and they've been taken out of the government. And this is a pretty strong signal that I think even his opposition was not expecting to go as fast. Of course, there are still questions in the parliamentary elections. The abstention was really high, higher than we usually have. So there are questions of legitimacy of his action and a bunch of things like that. But the fact that he put out those ministers that were being investigated, not even indicted, including some of his biggest support during the presidential election, is, to me, a pretty strong signal that he's serious about this making things more moral. And even more than this, I think the murdering politically of the Republican the Republican candidate, because of the scandals that he was involved in, and what's happening now with those demotions is signaling a gradual change in the French political system, which is bringing us closer to what we're seeing in the north of Europe. You know, Nordic countries have very strict intolerance for these kinds of scandals. And in the south of Europe, it's a little bit less fluid, let's say. And France has always been in the middle, and we're not really sure exactly what we want to be. And here, you know, time and time again, over the past 20 or 30 years, I've seen France make the right choice in these things. And we're still a very messy country when you look at more Germanic countries. But I'm a little bit biased because I think that the answer that this party is giving are the right answers. We'll have to see over the next 2 years what happens with their actual policies and actions to see what happens. But I still think that this is encouraging, and we're going the right direction, slowly, but in the right direction. So, and I'm surprised because a few months ago, I didn't think that's how things were going to go. I was very, very worried. So yeah, that's the main thing that has been happening in France. I'm wondering if you guys have heard a little bit about this and about Macron and the Macron mania overtaking the country.
I have to say, thank you, France. I mean, that was the wake up to the news morning where I was like, oh, thank you. That it wasn't Penn, I mean, to me, that's the fear I have of sort of the candidate winning that conjures up sort of the support that hasn't been voters before, or they feel slighted and, you know, alt-right or whatever that may be, and emboldens them. And it felt like France was like, no, we're still, I don't know. So thanks. That's all I have to say.
Well, was that a sentiment that was echoed in Sweden, or how was it reported on in Sweden? Was it, you know, oh, he's young and somewhat handsome?
Oh, yeah, we love our young and handsome. But I think it's his sort of where he is politically that matters more to Swedes, of course, and just fellow Europeans being how they would see as sane. Because Brexit seems insane. And I mean, I remember when Trump won, the next morning, every newscaster, I mean, as you listen to them on the radio, you could hear their mouths were just open. Like, what just happened? And, you know, the Prime Minister of Sweden, his statement was, well, we'll continue to work with America. Like it was, we're going to do our best. So I feel like that, you know, they saw the French election, a similar referendum, similar to the one in Holland. And obviously Brexit has kind of gone a different way, but it frightens them, of course. They feel pretty, and they're a little country with, I mean, a lot of land, but not a lot of power. So it's a relief.
I think a lot of the smaller countries are very worried about what's happening, what would, and I guess still could happen to Europe, but we're a little bit reassured now with the French-German axis being, well, maybe axis is a wrong choice of word, but being strengthened with this very pro-Europe Macron being elected. Marlene, you're in a difficult situation in your country. How did the news of the French, I mean, now it's done. It's been the presidential election. We always need to wait for the parliamentary election, but now it's done and we have a solid government in place. How was that received in the context of your embroiled government?
I think very similarly to what Wendy described. I think the Netherlands was one of the founding, like at the core of European integration. We started with Belgium and Luxembourg. And from there, like it sort of expanded. So I think like traditionally the Dutch really considered themselves to be part of the founding idea of a united Europe. And indeed, the same sentiment here. Brexit is completely crazy. There was no plan. There was no need for the referendum and all of that. I think many people who are part of politics really felt betrayed by just running the risk in the UK with the referendum. So yeah, I've already seen a couple of news headlines. We are a nation of traders, after all. We've always been a small country, but with like big airports, big waterways. So the first headlines are how the Dutch can sort of strengthen their position to partner with the French and the Germans, because we're a tiny country and we love to be acknowledged. So
as most,
so
countries,
so that's really I think that's a big part of it. One of the things that I was wondering that it just struck me just now, it might be lightning because it's really starting to open up around here. So let me know if there's any trouble with sounds.
No, it's fine.
But otherwise, am I right in understanding that Macron's party is maybe socially a little more left of center, but otherwise still rather middle of the road, and economically as well? Or am I really something stupid?
No, I think it still remains to be seen. His government is composed of people from the left and from the right. And that's something that both the left and the right are decrying because they've been in those, opposition postures for so long. I think if you ask anyone outside of France, they would say he's a social democrat, maybe a little bit to the right on the economic side, because he's almost a caricature of a startup enthusiast. He wants to make France a startup nation, and he's like, yes, technology. And he had this Make Our Planet Great Again speech where he's actually following up with actions. He created a tech visa, 4-year tech visa for people who want to come to France and work in the tech industry. He's really trying to push that aspect of the economy, which again, I think a lot of people might say, I'm very mindful of the opposition when I'm speaking about this, of the opposition in France, who would say, yeah, but, he's a rich white dude and he's trying to solve every problem with not a checkbook, but yay, we're going to have tech
fund for this and
unicorns
fund for that.
And at the same time, he's trying to reduce a little bit of the taxes and these kinds of things. So I think anywhere around the world, he would be looked at as a social democrat, more or less. In France, he's looked at as right of center, I think.
Okay.
But we still have to wait, for his actual policies to be put in place.
Because what I'm really struck by is that because part of the discussion of the French election in Holland was in the Netherlands. I'm trying to get it right this time. In my country,
that's easier. Yeah,
yeah, it's easier. Was definitely we held back the far right, as did France. But I think that if you look at the outcomes, and also if you same, I think with the snap election in the UK, the feeling, we held back to the extremes. But if you look, I think indeed we still don't have a government. One of the reasons for that is that there is basically no political center anymore. People have either moved to the right or the far right, or to the left or the far left. But there is basically there's no sort of a middle of the road center political party left anymore, which is why these coalition talks in Holland, in my country, are taking so incredibly long. If you look, maybe I'm getting this wrong, but I think. Yeah, well, I think in the UK it's something similar. Like the center has lost a lot, but if I understand it correctly, that is completely different in France, because the new party has an absolute majority.
That's basically the platform he ran on. He was, and that's why he sort of saved the day, I think, for us, because we were going the same route as the rest of the world. Basically, more polarization, more on principle criticizing of the other side, no matter what they say. And he stood there, and because of everything that happened, he stood there and he was saying, in more polite terms, stop this madness. This is moronic. And he could, because of the other people falling like flies, he could get his message heard, and the French people responded very strongly to this. So I think we got lucky and took advantage of that luck. And I'm hoping that we can show the way. First of all, I'm hoping he succeeds, which is not a given. Mm-hmm. He might fall flat on his face. But I hope the first thing he needs to do is get some proportional representation in the parliament, because currently we don't see the extremes are represented very, very little. The far right has like 8 seats. The far left has 17. And that's not okay. We need to have them because they represent, 15, 20% of the population. They should be represented more, even if it's 10%, So that's an important thing that a lot of people have been talking about for decades and that they haven't done. But the second thing is obviously to get unemployment lower and the economy back. And if he manages to do that, then we can see that approach works. If it doesn't work, then I fear we'll go back to polarization, and it might not create the beacon of hope that we would like to see for Europe, that, the center can work. But I did want to ask, Owen, have you heard about this guy at all in the U.S., or is it squarely focused on 45?
So let me tell you 2 things. First, you're welcome. Without us doing what we did, again, like I said, people realize that crazy stuff's going on. And in certain places, luckily for you, France is small, and there's a lot of diversity in
If
general.
France is small, what are we?
It's all a matter of perspective. I would say, yes, the small countries love being noticed, but on the stage of, the US, China, and Russia, when someone talks to us, we're like, yay, someone talked to France. So yeah, it's all relative. But sorry, Owen, keep going.
Sorry, Owen.
If you don't have a major iconic city that's in movies, and people will never know about you. So they.
Oh, I'm sorry. In that case, we are a big country, and we have Amsterdam.
You have pot, so that is your
stoners that don't do anything but sit on their couch to smoke weed. It's not the same. Anywho, again, you're welcome, because that's why it's funny. Like here when Kanye West is like, oh, I'm going to run for president in 2020, and people laughed. Now they're like, oh, wow, if Trump could be president, anybody could do it. So that's the first thing. Secondly,
is Kanye going to run? Is Kanye going to run for president?
No, I hope a wrestler named The Rock, Dwayne Johnson.
Oh, The Rock. Yeah, of course. I vote for him.
The Rock runs, he's going to win. But the first article I saw about the French guy, correct me if I'm wrong, I'm almost positive this is him. Did he marry his old teacher or something?
Yes, absolutely.
Okay. That was the first article I ever read on this dude. That was the article. I'm saying so he's but wait, he married. So you told me he married an old woman in his romance story and how she's still hot and he's hot, but he married an older woman. And that's what I'm reading. That's the first thing I read. That's the first thing I saw about the dude. That's how America cares. And that's how we got 45 and America.
Well, America. To be fair, I think a few people cared about the fact that he married his old teacher, but there were almost immediately, anytime anyone mentions this, well, the fact that she was his teacher makes it a little bit weird. But at the same time, a lot of people go like, well, if a woman was married. I mean, if the man was much older and the woman was much younger, no one would care. So there's some, realization of that double standard.
Teacher thing is what made it happen. And the fact that he waited around, the way they made it sound, it was like a creepy love story and made older women feel good that they could still get a young Thundercat to love them. That's the way it was portrayed.
There's a little bit of that. I won't lie. There is a little bit of that. Yeah.
As opposed to the usual older man is out there luring with money to get the younger woman. So it's a whole to do. But that was the first thing I read about the guy, and then I looked into it a little bit afterwards, and he seems like a cool dude. Seems like a cool cat doing things differently, and I wouldn't mind having him run stuff over here. Someone like him. He reminds me of the dude that's running Canada, Trudeau, whatever his name is.
Yeah, Trudeau. Yeah.
There's
there's apparently some romantic fan fiction between the two, Trudeau and Macron, happening.
Of course there is. Amazing.
On the internet.
Not that has anything to do with it, but so when you look at, there was an article I read. Again, it's stupid that politics even comes down to this anymore. But how the rest of the world is getting sexier and younger or whatever, and then they just put Trump next to other leaders, and they're all cringe next to him. It is the most amusing thing because he just, even in the most powerful position, the fact that you could turn people off that quickly, that they can't even respect you. Because most of the time, even if they don't like you, they still have to respect the position. People look at him like they either want to run away or stab him repeatedly. That there's no other adoration thrown his way from anyone except for maybe England.
Well, as someone said, I think it was Wendy or Marlene, sorry, but the UK election has gone, you know what people have been talking about now? It's the Queen's hat, which was basically a mini European flag. And that made a lot of noise. Rightfully so, I think. It's basically the biggest way that the Queen could say anything about this is this wearing this hat, which is a very strong statement for that. Of course, it doesn't really matter, but it matters in the symbolic sense. But,
well, but I think in that case it does matter because I think in the UK it is incredibly not done for the Queen to have any noticeable political views.
Of course, yeah.
So in that case, it actually is a big deal that she still did, because for people who
I don't think it's going to have an impact.
Blue hat.
No.
But I think that she ran the risk of even all these talks about, because I've seen that headline in Dutch newspapers too.
Mm-hmm.
She had a blue hat with yellow flowers that looked suspiciously like the yellow stars on the blue flag. That's the EU flag.
Yeah.
So does she have any power?
No. Well,
so
it's symbolic. It's symbolic.
She's a symbolic figure of someone who has no power whatsoever. I mean, as far as I'm concerned, I don't even know why you still even have a queen. I don't know why it matters. It's like throwing a parade for your dog and celebrating your dog's birthday. Oh yeah, the dog's a part of the family. No, it's not. It's just your dog, and treat it as such. Because the fact that she wore a hat, whoop-de flippity do. So you wore a hat to signify to what? People that already went and voted a certain way and then shit. The Queen stuff drives me crazy. That whole thing just needs to get done because it doesn't mean anything. Are you going to rally the troops? You can't say anything. If you're not politically empowered to do anything, then just open your mouth and say, this isn't the way I feel the country should be run. That's how you inspire people, not wearing a yellow hat with orange flowers in it. The Queen.
No, but I'm sorry, but look at Trump. Look at how successful he is with using symbols. It's the same thing. But
he got power. He
does now. But there are plenty of people have always used symbols to express things when they didn't have any political power to change. And sometimes it's not about changing. I mean, I don't think it's a big deal that it's going to change something. But I think it was significant because I mean, she's been sitting on that throne for a really long time, really long time.
And it's doing what?
Well, yeah, she's sitting here being the queen. But then if in this entire time, if she actually picked this moment to at least make some sort of a little statement, I thought it at least interesting that it
I think it's we could get into a whole other episode, and maybe we should one day, about the royalty in the UK. That would be an interesting one. But Yeah, I mean, it was noticed. At least we can agree on that, and it was reported on. So, all right,
That's
let's
just my
move on.
rebellious America against going against kings and queens. That's all. We're over the pond over here. We don't run that kind of stuff anymore. We fought for that. So that's just my inner American coming out.
Well, we're not too fond of royalty here in France either. Last time it didn't go too well for them, so I think we kind of can share that characteristic. All right.
They were almost done in the Netherlands, and then our crown prince married a beautiful Argentinian woman, and then suddenly everybody's totally okay with monarchy again.
Well, in Sweden they have a royal family as well, and everyone loves them, right?
Yeah, they do. Partly because they are. I mean, I think people could complain about the money that gets wasted, but these are folks that ride their kids in their bucket bikes to school and go to regular. I mean, they're pretty low key.
Yeah.
So it's not exactly the same kind of royal family. Right?
No, I mean, I think most people in the Netherlands also like sort of like